tire somewhere.
Oh.
There's two separate
Too many
conversations.
conversations.
Oh, too many Steves.
No, I was asking.
Oh,
You must have been early in the day.
You didn't work
Huh?
for
You
highway.
must have been really early.
I was, I dropped my car off at Rudy's and walked over.
Say, who won the then yesterday? Championship. Second who?
That's the problem, man. There were lots of games. But they won it.
Would they play against the championship?
Was it Wieners again, or no?
No.
Strikers?
Right.
Oh, really? So, Strikers beat lacrosse.
Yeah. So did Whitehall. We had 7:15.
My clock says it's 8:30, so we will call this meeting to order.
Wieners.
Wieners.
Certify, Paul, that the open meeting laws were met.
Yes.
We have a 15-item agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Should say amended agenda.
I'm sorry.
Maybe amended.
Yep.
amended.
You got it on there. I just didn't read it.
That's okay.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All in favor, say aye.
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 You gotta wait 2 seconds.
2 seconds, yep.
You already know, oh, somebody's. Ramo.
Minutes from the previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Second. Questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay,
Chairs don't work very well.
we do have a public comment period. Members of the public will have a 15-minute block of time to comment on today's agenda items. Members may be present in person or call in to make such comments. To comment by telephone, please call 715-538-1894. Public comment may be extended or curtailed at the direction of the committee/board chair after advisement from committee board. Don't see the phone ringing. Anybody here commenting on the agenda, anything on the agenda today that isn't? Hearing done, we'll leave it open, so if somebody wants to, we can, and we'll go back to it, but we'll move on. County sales tax update.
Okay, rough. Come on.
Go. Read it.
Okay, our May collection that we get in June, it was $243,934.77, which is less than last year or the year before. But if you look at the total year-to-date, we are still about 20,000 ahead of last year and about 2,000 behind the year before.
Okay. Any questions for Paul? Thank you, and then we move on to the general fund.
The only change was the action that was at the May County Board meeting for $104,124.89 for the 2022 overruns. So we are at $2,892,119.27.
Okay. Anything on that, general fund? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 8. Department reports and requests. Quarterly update from land records.
See her.
And you
I
think so?
she's gone.
She's what?
I think she's gone today,
Oh, okay.
but she sent out, I sent out your
Oh, yeah,
reports or whatever.
in the packet.
Yeah.
Yep, that was the whole packet in there.
Yep.
Anybody have anything on that they want to discuss? It's basically just a report on what, all the things they're involved in and all the things they do.
Good report.
Yes,
What was that, John?
Good report.
she does an excellent job, no question.
Well,
I
the
agree.
one on page 2 of it, the one she's got in red, I suspect we're supposed to take notice of. That strategic grant funding is unlikely to continue beyond '23, so that
So-
might,
I think I saw something in the new budget for, is that the GIS project?
This would be, that's her stuff.
It's like gonna be completely funded if I read it right,
I don't know.
by
could
the
be.
state.
She'd have to answer that one, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, something to make note of whenever
Right.
the budget comes, because, I mean, it goes back to all of the different funds that are coming back to us. How do we get a good list of that? How do we make sure it's plugged into the budget appropriately?
We have to get it in time, that's the
Yeah.
big thing.
Yeah.
And she'll have it, if it is so, she'll have it in her budget.
Yeah. There was things on PSAP too, Sheriff, that we're gonna get money for, specifically for that too.
We'll be applying for a grant for that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That was just released last week when I was out of the office, so I don't know any details yet on that, so.
Okay. Anything else on the land records one?
You want to sit up here where we can hear you?
Me?
Yeah?
Am I on?
It's,
No,
no,
not yet.
not yet.
But when you're talking in the background, people at home can't hear you.
Oh. Okay, we'll just put that down as we accepted the report, I guess. County Department update from Paul.
Okay, the auditor's been here. They came the last week in May and the first week or week and a half in June. Did their field work. They haven't completed everything yet. There's a couple of things that we still have to get to them so that we can get that finalized. That way they can send us the audit adjustments that we need to do so that I can run the reports for the departments for the year end of last year. Which brings us in that we had department head meeting last week, and I announced to them that we were going to be starting the budget process. We do that now in July, so it's pretty soon. I'll have to get some direction from this committee on what kind of submission you want. I was telling Dave, 1, 0, 2, 3, 5. I went to 10 and he said minus, and I said -1, -2. I'll have to get from you what you kind of want me to start working towards.
That's something you want today?
I prefer, yes.
Okay.
It would just be a suggestion. You don't have to have formal action. Just. And I'm
Come on,
gonna.
Dave, I'm waiting for your response.
Well, last year I suggested a -2%, and we did not get that when it came to the directors, except with one department. But I don't think it's prudent at this juncture with, really, I mean, where our general fund is, it's pretty low. And if we're gonna continue to see, downward trends in our sales tax revenue, I can't see us increasing our budget by 2%. That's a lot of money. So, for example, I mean, I would still suggest a -1%.
And that's kind of where I would be, as a target to shoot for, yeah.
I don't think we'll get it, but I would agree with that. However, we should be getting 0.5% more in sales tax, which will help. As you look at the tax, it should double what we have right now.
Wait a minute.
doubt if that's gonna happen,
We
though.
should be getting it? How
Well,
you,
it starts to.
Well-
Oh, okay.
25 budget has got that 0.5% in it already, and it's supposed to be permanent, so.
He's talking about the state share.
state share?
What the state gets, and then.
Right now, the
we
last
get a
number
part
I
of
saw
that.
was about 975,000, something like that.
Well, that's the shared revenue. The
the
sales
shared
tax
revenue.
is a separate item.
And there's an additional one that I haven't
And
caught
we're
up
getting
with
a
yet.
0.5% now, so it should basically double our sales tax revenue.
Okay.
If the state does it every time, that'll be the thing. They could just do a one-shot deal, too.
Yeah. I thought it was put in the law, eh?
I haven't seen
Hopefully
that.
they do.
I haven't seen that part yet, but.
So, is that kind of the consensus here? We're gonna look at -1 for a request? Is that the number we're looking at?
It's a target, I
Better than
guess.
it was last year.
okay?
Okay, I'll.
That'll be the
when I get-
target.
Okay. Then, my election budget, which for 2022 is part of that overruns that we had to take money out of the general fund to cover. And so already this year, my election budget is almost 6,000 in the hole. So I'll be coming back at the end of the year unless I come back sooner and ask for some money out of the general fund. But we've had this account, well, we've had it forever, but I've had it as a non-lapsing account since 2011, and it's maintained itself. So, I mean, we haven't had to, we've never raised the amount of levy for the last 12 years. We've always had the same amount. Well, this last year just caught up with us. And I don't see elections getting any cheaper. So that's going to be one of my things when I'm working on my budget. I know it's going to increase because I'm going to have to get more to cover the rest of this year and then starting at zero again next year. I don't
So are
think.
you gonna put a resolution for?
Yeah,
overrun?
but I'm going to wait till closer to the end of the year. I don't have to put the ad in the paper until in November for next year's election, and nomination papers start December 1st. So there's going to be more expenses, so I'm going to wait a little bit until we have a good handle on what we still need for this year.
Paul, how much of that additional spend you were seeing came from kind of the special election, school board stuff and all that?
Well, it used to all be considered in there, but boy, printing is the big thing. Printing and programming the machines has gotten huge.
The wonderful new voting machines are what's costing us more money.
It's saving the municipalities, though, because they don't have to pay their election workers as much because they get done sooner. It's none of this staying till 4 in the morning anymore. Everybody's done before 10 o'clock, which is
Wasn't that
really,
election machines paid for all in one crack? I mean, it should go down less and less every year because you've already paid for the machine.
oh, it's nothing to do with that part. It's printing the ballots.
Oh.
And programming doesn't change, so.
Because every election cycles has to be programmed for
Yep.
that specific ballot.
Right.
Is there is no money from the state to cover that? But they mandate us to use those machines.
They mandate us to have elections. We got, what was it? It was ARPA money too, wasn't it? Yeah, it was ARPA money that paid for all the machines. So all the municipalities got their machines paid for out of ARPA funds. That was kind of nice. They were about 7,000 something each.
So you're saying we don't have to use those machines at all?
No, we can go back to paper, but
There is a few that still do paper. I've done it myself at times. Very seldom I ever use it.
we haven't had paper for at least 5 years, I think.
What would the cost be if we did paper?
I'd still have all the printing, it would be just the programming.
How much is the programming?
Maybe
An
15,000.
election,
How much
15,000 in election.
for the programming? And how much are you gonna be over budget?
I'm going to be over, I'm 6,000 right now, probably ads in the paper, and our supplies, you said that was 5 something.
So we could be above
Eh.
ground on the budget then if we just did paper for one cycle.
Wow, I'll have 26 angry municipalities, I know that.
They wanna pay for the machines then? I mean, we can go that direction and put a resolution out to have them pay for their share of the machine programming.
But most of the programming is county, state, and federal. They'd only pay for their municipal, and we do already
We
charge
charge
them for that part of the programming and paper.
It's just interesting because, I mean, we need to make sure our budget is clear and not spending more than we need to and force us into raising taxes to pay for it. If we can somehow not do it, even if it's for a cycle or two, that's something I think we should consider.
I can.
I'm not telling them.
I'm not. I could put a thing out to tell them that, that it's just getting awfully expensive and ask them if they want to help pay more, but I doubt if they will. We're kind of stuck in there, I think, is what it is. I feel bad, but that's,
Well, back to, what do you think that number's gonna be then? Do you
it's
have-
not going to be over 8,000, I don't think.
So we'll need 14,000 out of,
No.
well, you
It's
need
at-
the six
it's
and the
6
eight.
right now, no,
Oh,
another
six-
2,000.
Oh, another two.
There,
That's
probably
that's
8
better
for
than-
total, 8 for total. But I'll know that closer to when we put the ads in the paper and get our supplies and all that. And then when I put the budget together, that's probably when we can decide if that's going to be a,
What's on a November election?
what?
What's the?
We don't have a November election, but we have to put ads in the paper telling them that telling the public that there's an election in February. And we might have a February, but for sure an April election, which includes county board, presidential, that's going to be huge.
Is that next fall? Next
Yep.
fall.
But the primary for presidential is in April.
Okay.
So next year, there's going to be a big bill for elections right off the bat. And what would usually happen is I would have money left over this year because we only had 2 elections. Then it would go towards the 4 elections next year.
I'm guessing the programming for the presidential election is gonna be significantly higher. We could save a lot of money if we didn't program that.
That's true, that's true.
I think it's an option we need to leave on the table. Let's see how it plays out.
To leave it to talk about later,
Yeah.
my first thought is we'll be ducking bullets. If we would try to make the towns, or the municipalities,
Go strictly paper?
Paper, yeah.
Yeah, that
They
would,
won't even remake ballots now. Like if something has to be remade, they won't do it now because they don't want people to cut it.
But if you're strictly paper, they could go to a copy machine and make another one, right?
I don't know, they might have to be
Yeah.
in a certified place to be legal, don't
I
they?
think we have a lot more complaints about cheating than.
Yeah, they get them now with the machines.
Yeah.
And so people were remaking ballots.
Well, but we could make them here and run them out.
Who used to.
we used to do that. We used to do that.
Gotta love technology.
There you go. So more on that later in the year.
Yeah, yep.
The other thing I did hand out to you was the status of refunding our existing bond issues. I think you got a copy of that. And I'm going to try to give you these, because these come out quarterly. And it shows everything, all our borrowing, and then over on the status, it says if it's worth looking into refinancing. But right now, I think interest rates are starting to raise, and if you look at all of these, none of them would generate any sufficient savings, and some are not even callable. So there's, I gotta find the one that's, the second one, that 2.4 million, I think our last payment is next year. Yeah, August of '24. You can see the 5 million one, we made I think our last payment was made this year, or will be made this year. But you can kind of see in there when their maturities are. That's usually when the last payment is made. But that'll give you information anyway.
Yep.
Okay, one last thing. My third deputy in the office has resigned to go back to where she used to work some time ago, I guess. So I will be looking for another employee again. And HR said that because it's such a short time, I can go back to the list that that we interviewed already and just take my second choice or whatever, decide. So I will be working on that. And so hopefully within a couple weeks, I'll have a new employee in there.
Will you open it up again, though, and maybe get other,
I don't have to. We had 11 applicants last time, so what they told me in HR was just go back and ask the ones that we interviewed if they're interested. And I had rated them, you know, first to top to bottom, I guess it is, and
so it depends on whether those applicants are still interested in.
correct.
So you may still have to open it up.
Then I might have to,
Yeah.
because I don't think I'd want to go down any farther than the third, maybe. Third down, or fourth, maybe at the very most, but. So, that's one of the things I'm working on this week anyway.
Any other questions for Paul? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Item 9, discussion action on the radio system upgrade project. Brett?
Apologize for you just getting this now. For some reason, last week I received a cancellation notice for this meeting, and so I didn't really do any more preparing for it.
It's that fancy technology stuff.
Yeah.
The packets again.
You lost access to the connection to the documents online. But anyway, Dave may have seen this. The rest of you, this is going to be new. The last time we were in front of you, here, I guess. The last time we were in front of you, I think, was for the approval of the upgrade to the system. And since then, Mike Bohan with Baycom has been working on our contract renewals for the cell companies that our tower equipment is on. And the upgrade is going to result in having to physically climb every tower and add equipment at every site. And therefore, there's an impact to the contracts with those companies, those owners of those towers. And I'll let Mike explain the 5 U.S. cell towers, and he may have some news on the Strum Tower, which is TCC owned. And we have a 7th tower by Osseo, which is American Tower Company. And there's been some difficulties in getting a hold of them, so he may have some news on that too. What you see in front of you was approved by Law Enforcement Committee last month. We're bringing it to exec finance, hopefully for approval today to get to the county board this month yet. All the equipment is here and paid for, but they really can't start any construction until they get the contracts in place here. So that's why we're bringing it to you today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Bohan with Baycom.
One question, are these monthly rates here? These are monthly?
Yep.
And the green
If
are
it turns
monthly
red,
rates?
you're good.
The green is monthly rates?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this is blink green.
Maybe try the one next.
There you go.
There we go. All right, so yeah, as the sheriff explained, this list that you have in front of you is specific to the U.S. Cell group of towers. They were, from the get-go, we talked about this probably last year. One of our largest concerns was that we were going to have some very significant increases based on what we've seen in the region with other U.S. cell towers. The numbers you see here that came back were actually quite a pleasant surprise on most accounts. The end all is that some have some variations. You'll see on the Independence Tower, something new with that lease moving forward. There's a revenue share with the landowner that didn't exist in the prior contract. So that is essentially doubling the rental cost at that site. Beyond that, there's no increases at some of the sites if we're not adding anything to it, if we're just swapping out equipment, same. So you'll see that on the Blair Tower. Arcadia goes up $250 because we're adding a microwave dish there. Same with Galesville and Ettrick, there was no change. So and then obviously the very bottom one, Pigeon Falls is a new site. That 1450 was half of what we thought it could be. So even though significantly higher than the other existing contracts that we're renewing or revising, still considerably less than what we feared it could be and what we've seen in other counties. So
Is that the Bug Castle Tower there then, or what?
no, these are all U.S. cell
Oh,
towers. Correct. So, all in all, summary-wise, the impact was pretty positive in our opinion from what we've seen. The current status of the leases, we're basically amending the current county leases with U.S. Cellular that run through May of 2026. And then U.S. Cell has agreed to then continue with renewable 5-year terms. I think up to 3 of them with, is it 15%
Yes.
increase
Yes.
at every 5-year renewable. So all in all, U.S. Cell was our largest fear coming into this. It's not nearly as painful as we thought it could have been. So aside from what you see here, I'll touch on a couple of other things. So the TCC Strum Tower, we currently have a lease on that and had spoken to that group. They came back with a slight increase in their lease rate, but still manageable. It was kind of along this $400 a month ballpark we're in with USL on some of these sites. Unfortunately, last week we heard back from an engineering team that said the loading study for that tower failed. To put it in layman's terms, the 0 feet to 80 feet, so basically the legs of that tower are structurally a concern. So if we were to add anything to that tower, in addition to what's there now, it would fail. Beyond that, the engineer shared that they were very concerned that even doing additional engineering studies, basically what would happen is this initial fail status, if we wanted to pursue it, would trigger about another $20,000 worth of engineering studies that get pretty in-depth to see if the tower would somehow pass. The engineer that we spoke to felt like that was going to be unlikely regardless of if we spent that extra $20,000. And his opinion was ultimately what they see is that it'll uncover even more things they don't know about yet. So fortunately, given that bad bit of news, our engineer found another tower very near that that is completely vacant, has a shelter available with a generator, and the lease rate is that same $400. So essentially, the recommendation from our engineer is we simply just move to this other Strum tower for the same cost moving forward. Variable being we would just have to negotiate how the county pays for electrical. Do you set up electrical on your own? Do we figure out what that would be on a monthly basis and add that to a monthly lease cost? So a bit of bad news turned into what appears to be very positive news, because the other upside to that other Strum tower, we would get another 50 feet of height. There's nobody else on the tower, so we can kind of pick our height. So tough to say, without doing some significant analysis, but anticipation would be there'd be some improvement in terms of coverage in that specific area, just because the tower antenna heights would be higher. So that unfolded late last week, so we still have a little bit of investigating to do, but it seems very positive, and we'll be in good shape there. The one thorn in our side continues to be the American Tower owned. Currently that was on technically it's on a Verizon lease. That was a $0 lease. But Verizon sold that tower several years ago. The county wasn't really sure that it happened. We weren't sure that it happened. I have had very little success getting somebody at American Tower to kind of tell us what their process is. We've been pushed around a few times. I've now, as of late last week, been given a fourth name that would supposedly be the one to help us to go through their process. I assume the process is the same as all others. They're going to want to know what we're putting on the tower, what we're changing. They'll have to do an initial engineering study on loading, and then they will tell us what that might cost. So that is honestly the biggest question mark, because at this point, it's a $0 lease. Typically, when you change leases, that gives them an opportunity to change lease terms, as we've seen even with US Cellular. So we don't know what American Tower's stance will be. My guess is they don't even know you're on that tower, based on the response I've had so far. But we can't just go make the changes. You know, we are adding some different equipment to that tower, so from a liability and safety standpoint, we can't just show up and make those changes.
Are we adding weight, new equipment heavier or something?
It's a different style dish. So right now, the microwave dishes are what we call a grid, so it's not a solid plate. It's kind of just that old-looking TV antenna type grid. So I don't have the specs in front of me. I don't know if the weight, there's probably a little bit more weight, but obviously then when you have a solid structure, it can catch wind more, so and in terms of loading, that would have an impact. So that's to be determined. So today, I think what the sheriff's trying to accomplish, at least to get the US Cellular stuff put to bed, because we have those numbers. With the committee's approval, we can give them the final okay to order the paperwork and start working on contracts and stuff like that. But we're kind of just at that stop point right now until we have a final thumbs up on that portion, and then we'll have the remaining 2 tower sites to work through.
Correct. And so if you look at the bottom line there, the total increase for the next 2 years is, just under 11,000 each year, and then the contracts renew again in 2026. And that renewal, we were going to have to renegotiate that contract anyway. The automatic 5-year renewals will have expired by 2026. So everything is kind of timing out to our advantage here, I believe. So even before we approved this tower project, we were concerned that we were going to see numbers in the $3,000 a month range with those current contracts. And as you can tell, we are far from that. So very good news, I believe, with US Cell to secure our communications for the next 17 years. So
you will have dollars in your budget without,
that remains to be seen.
okay.
Yeah.
Because that number is still $129,096 a year increase, right? Because this is a monthly number.
Yeah, those are monthly rents.
Yes, correct. Yeah. 11,000.
So if you take the
Yes.
21,516 divided by 2, that's for 1 year, and
Yeah.
then multiply that times 12 months, it's $129,096 a year.
No, that's a yearly total at the bottom. So that's just a
Yeah.
summary of what
Yeah.
we were just doing some quick math. That's a little confusing, and my apologies.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
Yeah.
validate, so.
Right, no. So that's, we were just kind of showing what it could have been in terms of how bad the impact over the remaining lease terms. So that's, you're breaking that down, divide that by 12, right? So 11,000 divided by 12 would give you your monthly increase each year. You follow?
Well,
So approximately.
like on the Pigeon Falls maybe is a bad one. So on the Arcadia one, for example, it's going from 198.38 to 250, so it's $52 more per month, right?
Actually, no, so that increase, the increase in that tower site is actually 250 per month, so the new rent is 448.
Okay.
So if you take that additional 250 times 12, that would give you your annual increase for that tower site, so
Yeah,
is that 2,500, so it's
3,000.
$2,000, yeah, 3,000.
$3,000 a year
Correct,
for that one tower.
correct.
And Gilzo ends up being the same, and then the other one would be the Strum, right? That's where we come up with 11,000.
Strum is not on here.
That's not on here yet.
No, but you look at that new
So,
Pigeon
okay.
Falls tower at the bottom there. So
Oh,
second-
Pigeon is the
Yeah,
other increase,
yeah.
yes, okay.
So Independence, Arcadia, and Galesville are resulted in increase in monthly contract, and Pigeon Falls is a brand-new contract altogether.
So why is that one so much higher?
Because it's just a new lease, they have an opportunity to stick it to you, so to speak.
I think, is there gonna
it's-
be a little bit more equipment there too, because it's a redundant control point?
Yeah, I think there might be additional equipment there, you're right. It's just the going rate, essentially. The benefit of having been a partner with US Cellular for the last 13 years is that they're honoring,
Government
to a
rate.
large degree, some of those prices that the county's afforded. And we've shared this before, some of these numbers are astonishingly, sorry. The county has enjoyed a very, very favorable lease agreement with almost all of your providers for the last 13 years. So even with increases now, my opinion, you're way, way ahead of the game compared to most other neighboring counties and compared to what they pay for their tower leases.
So I think we should go back and read, let's finalize these numbers so we have a better idea exactly what this is. So it's a zero on Independence, it's a 0 on Blair, it's a 3,000 on Arcadia, it's a 3,000 on Galesville, it's a 0 on Ettrick, and that's per year. And a 17,400 per year on the new Pigeon Falls one, right? That's $23,400 a year. Or, yeah, right?
So actually, I want correction on your Independence, that actually is doubling, that revenue share component. So they're not increasing the rent, but there is a revenue share with the landowner. That has changed since the initial lease term. So US Cellular.
That's not on here.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's revenue share 50%.
Right under the
Oh,
zero.
okay, so,
Got it.
I'd make a motion, we gotta have the communication one way or the other, so I would make a motion that we just approve it.
well, I'm not saying I wouldn't approve it, I'm just saying we need to know what we're gonna expend and what that does in relation to a budget we have to approve down the road, right?
But we're kinda looking to get it done, so don't delay the.
Well, we're gonna be getting into winter construction here before long is the issue,
Yeah.
by the time we get going here.
So help me think backwards here. These numbers were presented but never approved before, is that correct? Until we got these final, we didn't approve anything for expenses in any previous meeting, correct?
The exec finance approved the purchase of all the
The
equipment.
equipment,
Yeah.
but this is,
Right.
this was not. in
Law
any of-
enforcement at their June meeting was the first committee to
Okay,
approve these
okay.
numbers that you see on this
Okay.
piece of paper here.
But at this point, you still don't know what the price is gonna be at Strum and.
So we do have just a kind of a verbal confirmation for Strum that it would be $400 plus whatever the electrical would be.
Okay. And what's the other one? There's two more, right?
So it's Strum and then Osseo.
No, no.
Osceo's another separate,
Yeah, that's the American Tower one.
Never gotten a second to this.
I know. I was,
Pretty cold.
Yep, yep.
I'm sorry.
yep. I just
trying to speed it up,
caught
like
that
you
too.
said. Winter's coming on.
But what's showing on this sheet right now is $9,375, correct?
Dick, excuse
Three
me.
thousand Arcadia, 3,000 Gelsville, and 3375 Pigeon.
Pigeon is 1450.
1450, that's what you're anticipating.
3375 was the initial quote that they received, and then they went back to
But that
them.
1450 is a monthly,
A
so
month.
that's really
Yeah.
17,400 a year.
Okay, then yeah.
Yeah, can we hold up a minute and get an official second to this so we can legitimately talk about this? Somebody want to make us do the second?
Second.
Okay, there we go. Now we can continue talking.
Everybody's adding.
Can I ask one question?
You bet.
That bottom line where you got it in green, where it says increase over the remaining 2 years to 21,516,
Dang, right.
is that,
Total.
That's not right.
well, that's what I'm getting at.
Is that,
That's what and that's what I was saying earlier. Let's get,
What
let's,
is the actual increase if it isn't that 21,516?
it's 28,200 plus whatever we don't know from Strong.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's the correct math.
Yeah, that's a typo on the bottom.
Yeah.
28,161 is what that, where it says 21,516 at the bottom.
Yeah.
I believe that should say 28,161.
Yeah, that's what, and plus whatever we know we're gonna end up spending in Strong, right?
Yes.
That's another, I mean, it's probably gonna be.
Which is, we're already spending 400. We don't know what the increase is gonna be.
Got it, right.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
good
Yeah.
point. That's a
Okay.
good
Right,
point, yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be about the same. It's the anticipation, for
So
sure.
for this committee's purpose, I think today is we're gonna be spending 30 grand more per year to have this upgraded system in place, which I think is what we all want to see happen.
I think that's a fair summary. I mean, the total that you're talking about. Yeah.
From my end of it, from the talk we had, you were here before, this is good news.
Correct.
Because you were giving us numbers that I didn't think we possibly could even visit.
Right, correct. And I mean, you can see, they could have come back with this Pigeon Falls number at 1450, and they could have said, that's the new number for all your sites. So we could have been triple, quadruple at every
Right.
location, so.
So then, with that comment, John's motion to approve really didn't have a numbers. We're gonna, in my mind, there's something missing here in the motion.
could have put make it to a max of 30,000 or something?
Well, that's where I was leaning towards. Does that fit anybody else's thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to move forward, I think
Right.
we should approve up to $30,000.
Okay, that's-
Anything more than that, come back to us and we'll, just so
Right.
it's all transparent.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's just not with the unknown of
Right.
that last tower
When you
site.
break it all down, I don't think anybody's gonna say $1 a year per person in this county to have good communication for our law enforcement is unreasonable.
Law enforcement, fire, and EMS.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
So, John, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to
Amend it to add
Do you want
up to
to
30,000.
add to it or amend it?
Amend it up to 30,000. Add.
Dick,
just
do you
add
still
to the
second
original
that?
motion.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, I think we got it covered.
Now, this has to go to the full board then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which will be, can we get that on an agenda this month yet?
Are you gonna have it by Monday? A resolution?
You need a resolution to renew contracts?
Well, if you're taking, what are you taking it to county board for then?
Well, I don't know,
That's what I'm
maybe,
getting at.
I don't know. I just thought,
Well,
I thought that's a natural
When is county
progression.
board, you know,
Pardon?
when is county board? That's like 3 weeks away, ain't it?
17.
From today. 2
Yeah.
weeks from today.
Yeah, well, you got,
So next Monday is the deadline for getting resolutions in.
oh,
But if you don't
Yeah.
have to act on, I don't know what you're gonna act on in
Right.
county board, is what I'm getting at.
So what are we acting on here today? We're acting on spending money that's over and above the budget? Is that?
Well,
When do these numbers take effect?
I suppose when they start work, probably.
First of the year?
Well, it'll be sometime this fall, potentially, as soon as the site goes live, I
You
believe.
might
so.
have to come back and get more money.
We'll see,
Overrun part,
see how it looks, yeah.
and then put it in the budget for next year.
So at this point,
If I don't-
I don't have to go to county board.
If I don't have to, I won't, so.
I don't see how.
That's
I
why I'm
Yeah.
asking. I just want to make sure we're doing
Yeah.
the right thing there.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can, I don't know if this committee can do a $30,000 spending without it going to full county board.
Oh, that would be a budget increase for, that'd be in my budget request for next year. The 30,000 will be, you know.
If this
Right, 'cause it's a monthly expense.
It'll be an overrun for this month.
Right, so
Yeah.
if I had to guess, if everything went fabulously, let's say it's September, October when the sites go live, so you're talking a couple months this year of an overrun versus that full 30,000, so.
Which means you'll have to come back for more this year on this year's budget.
If I don't have it, you know, it's, I don't know what the whole budget is gonna look like yet, but I won't if I don't have to, but, so.
So I don't see anything going to county board right now.
Okay.
This is just the approval to
What I see.
move forward and with it. So, any more questions on it? All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
And I here, so carried.
That's good. That was all good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Next item, discussion action on Veteran Service Office Resolution Request.
The first one's A.
Oh, there it is, A, yep. Designated veteran transportation as a non-lapsing account. What are we looking for information to start with?
All right, so for that, during Steve and I's changeover, we discovered while doing some research into grant writing that the state grants that we were receiving for the transportation budget every year could not be rolled over into the county fund. They were supposed to only go towards veteran transportation. If they went to anything else, we were basically breaking state law. Steve and I kind of just looked at our expenditures over the past years that Steve was in the office and the time that I was there, and we always went over that amount, so it was never an issue. But just to protect ourselves, we wanted to create that account or change that account to be non-lapsing. So now, if there is any money left in that fund at the end of the year, which we have not had in the past, that would just stay in that account and continue building.
Okay.
Yep, that's the only change on that one.
Basically, what you're gonna do is create an account with zero balance in it.
If there's money left over at the end of the. If there's money left over at the end of the year, it'll carry over to the next year.
I know
Right
that,
now,
but-
it's been zeroing out,
Yeah.
but any balance in there. And like Joe said, they've always spent all of it, but just in case.
But just in case, we talked about it and we're like, this has to be done just in case. Right now, we've never had the issue of having that money left over because we usually have to dig into the co-pays that we receive for the transportation to continue to cover that, especially with the increased costs that we're seeing when it comes to those trips and the decrease in the amount of co-pays we're receiving. Still, just a way to protect ourselves, just in case the state comes back and asks, where did this money go?
Comments, motions out here?
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to do it. It's part of the state law. I think whenever we get those kinds of monies that are coming to us, we just do that up front. Which brings up another question, Chair, that, how many,
Did you second it then?
I'll second it. yeah.
Okay.
So-
I thought that first yeah was a second.
Yeah. So, sorry. It brings up another question, though, in terms of all of our non-lapsing accounts for all of the county. I'm guessing we don't have a list of all of those accounts that are required by law that they don't lapse, and those that we just, as a county, have said, hey, we don't want this one to lapse. We don't want this stuff to go into the general fund. I would like to know how much is that versus stuff that we can't touch. It's just, it's mandated by the state that we can't touch versus what are the things that are mandated by us that we can't touch.
I think I can put that together.
That would be really good information to know, because as we get tight on budgets, you know, we could write resolutions that say, well, I know this has been a non-lapsing fund for a long time, maybe we should consider it not to be a non-lapsing fund because we need the money in the general fund. It could happen, you know, so just a suggestion that as through the budget process, we include that in a discussion.
Good example is my election budget, which has been non-lapsing since 2011. Right now, I'm thinking that will no longer be non-lapsing because there's
Nothing in there.
there's nothing in it.
It doesn't mean
and
it
I was
still
in the
won't be
hold.
non-lapsing.
Pardon?
It still doesn't mean that there wouldn't be non-lapsing.
True, it's just that if I have to come back at the end of the year for more money, then it's an overrun.
Right.
no longer not
But I'm
lapsing.
talking about
But the
the
future-
opposite of
in the
that.
future,
Whenever
you
there
could
might
probably-
be.
Oh, to leave it just.
There might, let's say, for
Kinda like what
example,
he's doing right now
if you
then.
had a lot of money in your election fund, it was $100,000 in there, and, well, how much longer are we gonna let that $100,000 sit there as a non-lapsing if we don't need it in that fund? So, how many of those funds are out there that we should be aware of when it comes to budgeting processes? Hey, we're over by $200,000, where are we gonna get the money from? Well, all of these non-lapsing funds that we don't have to have as non-lapsing funds, we should take that money back. It could even be a one-time thing, right, as a resolution, and then they stay non-lapsing funds moving forward.
Okay, yep, I'll
Yeah.
dig into that one.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Okay, cut off just a little bit. Anything else on the motion before us? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And it carried. Okay. And then create a non-lapsing account to accept the fiscal year '23 ARPA grant. Some information on that first, please.
Yep, absolutely. So with that one, before Steve left, one of the things he did was apply for a grant for state ARPA funds. We received $15,878 to be used for the Veterans Office in some capacity. Steve kind of left that to me to decide what we are going to use that for. It's going to be, the plan is to use that for a little bit of outreach and the rest for the Veterans Office supply-wise. But at the moment, we don't have a place to put it. So that's what this resolution was for, is just to create an account for us to put that specific amount in that was granted to us and put together a plan to spend it then.
Is there a resolution on that?
Yep, there's a resolution in there.
And then would the intent be
Oh, I
then
didn't
to
write that down. I see.
continue that is, when the money is gone, or that it would die after the money is all gone?
Die once the money is all gone.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
This
Okay.
money right now is sitting in a deferred
yeah.
revenue account.
Yeah.
So we'll get it out of there into the accounts that we've got the numbers on there for.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And you'll read these at the county
Carried.
board meeting, I would guess, right?
Yep. We can get your signatures yet today for these two so far.
And then item C is a limited term employee to assist in office during the interim.
Correct. So with Steve's kind of abrupt departure, we had a very full calendar this summer. Between him and I, we had upwards of 14 or 15 events during the weeks or during weekends that him and I, one of us would have been at, whereas there wouldn't have been an issue. The office would have been open with one of us in the office. But now all that has kind of fallen on just me. And I've had to close the office quite a few times. And I just am not sure how we want to handle that. I don't like the idea of not being available. I've been trying to be available with our new phone system, the Zoom phones. That's definitely helped a lot, but I'm not in the office for the walk-ins. And that's something I don't like. So one of the things I'd be looking for is just somebody who could even just man the lobby of the Veterans Office, just be there to catch people who are coming in. In the interim, I've had Mark up at the gate, at the front door, who has basically just been taking messages and handing out my card and saying, oh, Joe had to close the office, he had to do, 2 things on Friday. As an example, I had to drive up to Toma for a conference. And Mark, caught 3 guys coming in the door and just gave them my number. I talked to one of them on the phone, the other 2 went to voicemail. But it's just one of those things where when I'm not there, I can't help the people.
Just for information, I told you, I did talk to Linda
Oh, you
Hannibal.
did talk to
I talked to her, and she said, I just said, so much has changed since she's in the office.
Yeah.
But she'd have been a heck of an asset, but she's probably, I know she's in her 80s, but I don't. Good gal, though. But she refused. I said, if you change your mind, give us a holler. And I said it would just be maybe afternoons or something, or maybe 2-3 days a week even. Who knows,
So are we looking to
Like an LTE.
replace your position?
At some point.
At some point, possibly, yes.
At this point, we're just looking for an LTE.
Well, right now, advertising, is it done?
Yes, it closed.
For
and
the director of the department.
Yep.
He's the interim right now.
Right.
Yeah, and the position test date is July 13th. So once that's
So
done,
there's
they'll
a
do interviews.
Full month of him being running around and nobody in the office.
And-
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of inevitable whenever that happened. But
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, and potentially, depending on how long it takes to fill the CVSO position, then backfill my position if I receive that role, or if I don't, we could have the office without a second person for the rest of the summer. I was looking at it, and it could be as late as August or September that I'd have somebody else in the office.
So basically, we're just looking for somebody like an LTE in the interim.
Yep. Yeah, especially on those days where I have to be gone. Off the top of my head, I know Wednesday I'm gone for sure. I have to go to the Eastern Conference or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's just our meeting for CVSOs in our region. On Wednesday, I'm gone for that. And then next week, most of the week I'm here, but then the week after is another one where I have to be gone 2 of the days. So it's a mess. And I just don't like not having somebody in the office for those periods.
Do you have somebody in mind for the position?
I wish I did, but I don't.
Okay.
Not somebody who I could pitch it to and not tell them it's permanent.
Do we have a pay rate for this kind of a position, or what?
Yeah, there is for a limited term. I think it's 2 times the minimum wage, plus $2 or something like that. No, it's minimum wage plus $2, I think is what it
And
is.
has this gone through personnel?
No, this is his committee, so it starts here.
Okay, it starts here and then it's got to go to them.
Or it might only have to go to HR because it's a limited term. It's not a permanent thing.
I think it's still got to go to personnel bargaining.
Sounds good to me.
We don't meet till the 27th.
It's not
Well,
good.
that won't help. I mean, the other
Juggle your schedule?
Huh?
Couldn't you juggle your schedule?
Oh, shit, I
yeah, just jump on in, John.
don't get nothing now, so I could have more than nothing.
I mean, if we're okay with the office being closed some of those days, it's not that big a
I
deal.
personally, being a vet myself, I see these vets come in all the time.
I
and
know.
I like to have somebody to talk to. Sometimes they have some major problems, they just want to talk to somebody with a,
I've been around long enough that before Steve was here, it wasn't covered, but I think it should be covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've,
Yeah, Steve and I made that effort to always have somebody in that office, just in case we did have that. We have a lot of guys who just come in and want to sit and talk.
From a strict strictly budget point of view, we'll be spending less than we would if we were fully staffed anyway. So
Yeah.
it makes, from a
Definitely-
financial
definitely.
perspective, it sounds like, hey, we're money ahead anyway, so.
Yeah, right. That's where I was going, that it's not a monetary issue at all here. I mean, with the budget, I shouldn't say monetary, but not with the budget. So I guess I would be in favor of trying to find somebody to keep it open.
Let's vote.
Did you make a motion?
What was
Let's
that?
vote.
Motion and a
I
second.
did make the motion, didn't I? I thought I
No,
made the
not yet on
motion.
this one.
So you get
Okay,
a
motion
LC.
and second by Dave, so let's vote.
Somebody.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And aye.
Did
Carried.
you get for,
I
he
have
made
no
the,
idea.
he made the motion and who seconded it?
Dave Orsh.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was pointing over here because that's where I
No,
heard it.
that's fine.
Thanks, Joe.
That's right, Dave started the discussion.
And if you gotta go to personnel, that'll be your next step, but I mean, I don't know. Talk to HR.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item up is discussion and action, request funds from the general fund for the highway winter maintenance. There is a resolution. Neil, if you want to come to a microphone and
Yeah.
turn. Yep, that works better that way.
Okay.
Not that
So,
we have to, but are you our new leader?
yeah, so I'm the new commissioner.
Okay.
Neil Olson.
Yes. Yeah, welcome and thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank you.
being here. Yeah.
So we had this discussion at our highway committee. Just to begin with real quick, we are 287,000 in a negative on this. This item is on everybody's mind as we travel the roads. So I handed out a little sheet there. First item kind of shows there's a general trend line, of course, with everything. It's constantly going up. So we're currently, as I stated, at the 287 in the negative on this account. It's growing slowly larger over the years. This has been non-lapsing, as Paul was saying earlier. It's kind of floated up and down, but as you see by the dotted line, at some point here, we're gonna get where even on the slower years are gonna be out of hand. The first box there is the levied dollar was 600,000 on the 2023 year. We spent the 592 plus some from carried over from previous. That's where we got the 287 negative. So on the second box down, you'll see that our averages have gone up significantly in the last 4 years. On the left-hand side, I highlighted an average September to January 1st. Roughly 222,000 is our average. So being that we were the 287 already and our average is 222, that's going to put us up into that, real close to that 450 by year end this year. So I guess for myself, partly we're asking to shore this up with general fund because if we don't now and we carry one more year, by 2025, if we have standard averages, we'll almost be one full budget year in the negative.
Can I throw one thing in?
Yep.
What Highway has been doing in the past is supplementing the winter with summer maintenance money. And that is gonna catch up with you also.
Well, as further conversation for budget discussion, but summer maintenance also is on a floating average. So if, when the years are good, and part of their formula is when the years are good in the construction account, that raises your maintenance side. So that's further discussion for budget, but. So anyways, the second box, yeah, was just, that shows our averages. Just partly, everybody knows this, but if you look back to the earliest years of 17 and 18 that we had on here, we had some pretty small fall numbers. And then we had a couple of bad years, bad winters, coupled with some significant increases started to happen. And of course, in the last 2 years we've really seen it with
Fuel costs.
salt increases, fuel costs, generally everything.
And the year ain't over yet, this is still 2023, and
Right.
it's 592,000 already, and we got the fall and winter to go before 24 starts.
Yep.
So he's definitely gonna be short again this year.
So on the bottom box, we just threw in salt numbers. I just made a quick little look here. From the 2017 year until the 23, we went from $70.47 to $89.89, which is 27%. That came out to an average of 3.85% roughly as just a general average percent per year. We just got, since this was printed this morning, I was going through emails, and we got our salt prices for this winter, which is called 24. They're at 97.98. So from last year to this year, we took a 9% increase in salt alone. So that partially further guarantees that this average 222 for the fall until will probably hit that average or more. So I guess I'm asking you guys as the committee to approve the general fund to shore up this account so that, and as it stays non-lapsing, hopefully kind of Dave and I have had some conversations on if we shore it up now, hopefully we can get through another cycle or two, see how it goes.
You have to move to approve here?
Okay, now we got some general information, so now I'm looking for a motion to approve this resolution.
So said. Move to approve. I just said it.
You said it?
Yeah.
Okay. And you
second.
second, okay.
One more.
There's something wrong, I don't have this adjusted right, because your voice is not coming through here good today.
Sorry, probably
One
not
more.
close enough here.
Clear on this one.
Quick comment is, do you need to have the dollar amount specified?
It's in there.
It's in there.
Okay, oh, okay.
It's in there, yep.
All right.
450,000.
Yep.
So, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion about the more now?
Yeah, I got a couple questions, So, number one, what percentage of that spend for winter maintenance is salt?
Oh, I'd have to break that down for sure. Because we use it as a mixture. We don't generally use pure salt on the county roads. There are some that we have over time, but we blend that into our sand.
No, I understand that. So, I'm sorry, let me rephrase. The question is, of the money that you spent on winter maintenance, what percentage of that spend is dollars spent on buying salt?
Just salt. I'm not exactly sure of the exact dollar on the salt.
Because if it's 80%, that's one thing. If it's 10%, that's a whole different.
Oh, right.
I think it's probably closer to the 10%. You got the
Yeah.
truck, you got the
Generally, it's
labor.
it's labor, machinery costs are a large portion.
And then it can be overtime because,
To
some years you get some major storms.
Yeah, no, I
thinking
was just
of
curious,
the
because
salt.
if it's 90% of our spend, then, can we cut back on salt? If it's 10% of our spend, then,
Oh.
cutting back on the salt's not gonna
So,
not gonna
with
really
a
do
further
anything.
discussion of that also is, as we talk about it, is level of service. The expectations of the public today is not the same as it was 10 years ago when I started. For example, we never sent our spare trucks out unless it was a fairly decent snowstorm. Now they go out, and if the roads aren't at least plowed off, maybe they're not even salted or sanded, but if they're not at least cut clean once, we're getting phone calls and complaints that it's 7 o'clock, what's going on today? So level of service over time, it's not generally say maybe our fault or sheriff's fault, but
Yeah.
sheriff gets an accident and they call and say, well, clean the road up. So we go clean the road up, and now somebody drives down one stretch and says, well, how come that road's clean and now mine's not? And all of a sudden, over 10 years, it's snowballed higher and higher that
I
the expectations are,
I think you being newer to this position, and you've been there a long
So-
time, you've already heard some of that. I think there is
Yep.
a level of balance that you have to say, yeah, I get it, we'll get out there when we can.
Right.
Or,
yep,
you're gonna have to deal with a little couple inches of snow for a while. It's that level of balance that we can't just, let's go heat every road up and completely clear them off with, natural gas heat or something.
Yeah.
We don't want to go that direction, right? But you're right,
Yeah.
there's more expectation every year.
I don't
What can
remember
we do to?
the exact tons that we've purchased last year, this year. I'd have to dig that up, I guess.
Yeah,
But at roughly just under $100 a ton, when you spend, say, 2,000 tons roughly is what somewhere is where we're at, that's 200,000 of a $600,000 budget on the county side. Now granted, that isn't all of ours because some of that then we in turn goes to our townships. So, but at the county side, generally we're purchasing around that 2,000 mark. But year to year we fluctuate. We have a beginning year, and then we have what we take, and then we have a yearly seasonal fill, they call it, and then we have a reserve fill that we can take. So this is what happened a couple of years ago. I just threw it in here that one of our bigger increases would have been, I believe, 21-2, was 81-80, must have been 22-3. The salt mine in Mississippi closed, and they told us it would be significant. And so, it was 21-2, because that was a small amount. They said it would be fairly significant. They didn't know where they're gonna source their salt. It was $1.50 raise, which wasn't ridiculous. But the following years where we seen the big jump, then 22-3 was 81-8, or 2-3 was 83-89. So that went $6 all of a sudden and change.
And this is gonna be worse next
This
year.
next one is now $9 a ton increase.
It went from 89 to 97.98, which is 9% in one year all of a sudden.
Is there a state DOT requirement to salt?
For the state, as far as,
Does the state require us to spread salt on our county roads?
On our state roads, they do.
on the state roads.
I know the
yes.
state roads,
But
I'm
that's,
sure.
that's
but
separate,
The
yeah.
county roads, there's no requirement?
No,
Okay.
on a quantity. Well, there is a maximum that we're supposed to be, as far as mixture. But that's DNR rules.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But yeah, they could be decreased, and we've done some things on our side, I think, for this upcoming year that'll help us out, but, there again's that level of service. So we run into the issues if you don't have, we had a pile in Arcadia. We had salt in it. We got December, we got a bunch of rains one year. Pushes that salt down through the bottom. You go scooping it next snowstorm, the top's got a foot crust on it. So we run into other issues. Now we've built a shed and things to help that, but, yeah, there's ways that we can help it, but public's not gonna like it.
As far as the mixture into the, do you use a number for a percentage?
We try to stay in that
Our salt in your sand mix?
5 to 6% range.
6%, okay. yeah.
I believe under roof. If it sits outside, it's not supposed to be over that, but they do have winter rules, and then April 15th, I believe, is got to be under roof or covered. So,
Yeah, I think you're doing the right thing. The old saying, you can make some of the people happy some of the time, but you can't make all of the people happy all of the time.
Definitely.
And so, to the extent you can, do what you got to do to, those areas that are dangerous because of ice buildup, there's quite a few of them around, take care of those, but some of those ones that are just nice to have, probably it's a prudent decision to balance the complaints there a little bit more to the, I hear you, but I'm not doing it type of thing. And because at the end of the day, we're saving them money for taxes. One last question. What would happen if we didn't approve 450,000? I mean, what?
Well-
it seems like it's kind of we're putting it into a non-lapsing account. So if you need more money, come back to us for more. What help us out there?
I guess, like you said, it is non-lapsing, but we were discussing there on the averages this year would be to about, by January 1st, to be at roughly 450 negative then, if we don't shore it up. So if we get our levy of 600,000 next year, and we run over on the same average by 2025, January 1st, we will be one full budget levy money in arrears. I mean, is that something acceptable to you guys? I feel it's not. I feel it that's why we're asking to shore it up now.
Thank you, that's why I asked the question. I
no,
want to just,
and that's- yeah.
let's play through this. I mean,
The
stands to
other
reason we might get a nice winter one
And that would
time too. And it
definitely
won't,
help out.
it would really help us out.
We'd all like that, I think.
One of the
Well, other than the
reasons
snowmobilers.
One of the reasons we discussed at highway meeting is the fact that we haven't changed this in, what did you say, 8, 10 years? It's been stayed the same.
Oh, and our
14
levy,
or
and our
15.
levy on
Levy
winter
that
maintenance
we
been
had
600,000 since
10 years ago,
2014.
and
Yep.
everything, costs have gone up that much,
Yeah.
and it's just eating it up. So we just figured, well, if we shore it up now, we'd probably get by another 10 years, who knows?
And, yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
if that doesn't get a raise in, at budget time, maybe we can keep floating along on our 600,000 number for,
Well, that's why I wonder once, rather than designate it, at the 450, could we maybe do 200 and then come back to us again and do another 200 if it really plays out? Just, the more we hamstring ourselves on the general fund, the more all of a sudden, okay, we really need it over here, now I don't have it to pull from because we gave it all to this department, right?
I can agree with that.
Yeah, that's only, that, from an executive finance perspective, that's where my mind is, Well, we got 2.8 million in the general fund. Well, let's give it all to highway so we're good for the next 50 years. No, we wouldn't do that, right? So is 450 the right number, or could we get by with something less than that?
Can I throw one more thing in then? Go back to your general fund balance sheet.
Yep. 2.89?
We have the 2.89 as the adjusted balance for the general fund. If that starts getting really low, look up at the very second line where it says desired unassigned for working capital. You got that money is in the general fund also. That's 1.68.
So what are you saying?
So I'm saying if you think that 2.8 is too low, you can always add that 1.6 to it.
So that's actually,
That's
that's where it should come from, working capital, right? I
It
mean,
would,
kinda,
it would, but
yeah,
it'd be,
yeah.
so I mean, you've got, the 2.8 is readily available. The 1.6 is, I'm gonna call it our rainy day fund, our emergency, if we have to go deeper into the hole.
This is something we put in years ago. At some
Yep,
point
that was a resolution
that we
that
wanna-
we would keep 25% of our unassigned general fund as reserve.
So,
reserve.
right, so another question along those lines, or statement is, what do we feel the general fund needs to be as a percentage of our total budget in order to be confident that we got that enough rainy day in case we don't get enough tax monies or something from?
That's what's calculated into that 1.6.
Right, so at 2.8, if our budget is what, 88 million?
70
77,
Okay, well,
70, 75.
let me do it, I thought it was a little bit. so
70-some thousand. It's upper 70s.
Well, the auditors are gonna,
Millions, I should say, yeah.
the auditors
77
will
million.
suggest the number to us when we get our audit back.
And that's what happened with this working capital, was kind of our reserve.
So we're at 2.892 million, we'll be at 3.76%. That's what it is. Our general fund is 3
Million, you mean?
3.6%
Percentage.
as a
wise.
reserve, as a general fund reserve is where we're at, right now.
Yeah, if it's
I'd have to
77
go-
million,
I'd have to go backwards on that, because
What are we saying
We-
our general
we-
fund should be related to as a percentage for our total budget?
it's usually 2 months of operating expense, 2 months of operating expense. But which would be what, 30-some percent? And we're over 50%. I think we're closer to 6 months or even over 6 months of working money. If the county totally closed down right now, we could still, no money coming in, we'd still have bills. We could run for 6 months with nothing. But they are telling us we only have to have about a 25%, and we're over 50.
50% of what?
Operating capital, I guess you call it, reserve funds. But I know the county's not gonna close down, not in the next couple of weeks, anywhere the next month or two. But,
And we're getting to where I was trying to go, is so that we all have an understanding of how much money we have available to spend and how what's the next emergency that's gonna happen if we have a tower fall down or, a squad car that, blows up. That happens all the time. So, if we drain it by another 450,000, do we feel like we're still gonna be in a position to, have that reserve that we need?
I would say yes, we're still
Okay.
okay.
My opinion would be a yes on that too. I think when we start approaching 2 million and under, then we get to the level of
I
concern.
don't like to see it ever go below 2.
Right, yeah.
2.5 is actually great, and hopefully it'll be back with the adjustments. I don't ever, we had this years ago, and we decided we never wanted it to go below 2.
Yeah, well, and our budget's higher than it's been then,
Yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
it should be more than 2, it maybe should be 2.5 or
Yeah.
something now, right? So, that's what I'm getting at, is the number still 2, or is it something more than that?
I'm thinking your line, the 2 million is kind of our,
Bare bones
Bare
minimum,
bones.
not the 1.6.
No.
that's still in reserve, but I mean, yes, the 2 on the bottom line here. If you got another 890,000 to go for this year, if that's what you're basically saying, to stay under the 2 million of the unassigned.
Yeah, stay at least above or stay at no lower than the 2 million, is what I want to say. Don't go below it.
I've got a question for you. What's the discussion on, I know I'm a little off what's happening here now, on borrowing for highways next year? Have you folks discussed that?
We're kind of just in the beginning of that. That's a topic I'm gonna continue asking for same dollars. I know probably some don't agree, but I guess that's more of a topic for budget. Biggest reason being is our 318 account is our construction, has 0 levied money. So we have to have it from somewhere. I got 50 guys to stay busy. So I guess that'll be further discussion through.
Right, okay.
And keep in mind that for 2023, you lowered that dollar figure.
Yep.
So he's got to figure out if that's going to still work, if that's going to be your main
Right.
request of what
And,
was
you
reduced.
know,
or-
I'm not opposed, and I understand also that there's areas with the courthouse and every department's going at inflation.
Right.
So, but, yeah, my intention is to continue asking for, and maybe we can change that by some to help out in other areas. But as
I
of now,
know,
I'll
the
just.
sooner you know that, we've heard that preached to us, that
Oh, right.
you have to purchase this
Oh, that's our other hard
product
part,
right
yeah.
now. If we're gonna do
For
something
example,
next year.
September, we generally do rock bids for all of our asphalts for next summer.
Right, right.
So it's hard for us to say we need 25,000 tons of X items and start paying for that, and then we come back to budget, and budget says, well, wait a minute, we just can't. Now we'll always use it, because it might carry to the following year, but it's difficult to pay that money out that early, and then,
Exactly.
we have nowhere to put it.
So that's been kind of a difficult position that this committee's been put on
Yep.
every year, because it's like, well, we already bid it out. Well, go 2 years in advance then, so that we know what it is, right?
Sure.
Can we do that? Is 2 years on the,
I mean, we have jobs planned in a 5-year plan, and we kind of, to a point, could. For example, as of right now, I believe that as long as the DOT still approves, our D project out of Ettrick is gonna be a 25-year build, and that's a STP-funded project, so it's 100% federal funded, but we can't do any of the work. As of right now, their estimated cost for the county is $840,000 is our portion, and we get 0 of that work.
will they still be buying the asphalt from us?
Nope.
You You've got to be kidding.
So it's grant-funded money, but the 840 is our portion leaving, and we can't do any of the work.
And they can't come to us to buy the asphalt?
Nope.
Why not?
Well, they got
It's-
these deals with the private contractors.
The private contractors and that's a lot of the rules in the grants.
Private contractors complained because counties were, or especially this county with the asphalt plant was doing more work than they should. So they want to make sure they keep themselves busy. And
So they're gonna go to some other
they went and
asphalt
lobbied,
company
they went and
Yeah.
lobbied the state. And
who can
won.
subcontract to us to sell to them, who can sell to the contractor.
Nope. We cannot do that. It will be, that particular one is a federal program, that will be funded, and that will be all privately
Interesting.
contracted. Yep. Similar is gonna happen on, we have an X project, we can get around, 330,000 in CHIP, and I don't remember if it's county highway discretionary or supplementary, but it's around 300,000 in the combined. That has to be let for bids, and we have to bid out roughly, I believe it's double. So about 330, so we have to have a minimum of a $660,000 bid. There again, we can't do that work. So in order to get the 330 back, a contractor has to do, they'll do all of the ditching, shaping, that part, and we can do, a cost-effective study, and then we can do the paving part of it. So we get,
So what you're saying is because of these other programs that have come available.
the way the grants are written, contractors have to be the primary source of the money.
Right, understood. So if those things, if those programs didn't happen, we would be doing the work, right?
Right.
So in essence, what you're saying is you have staff that you would be employing in the next couple of years that you don't need.
No, well, essentially, if it was all grant money. But-
You wouldn't be able to afford to pay them.
Yes, if it was all grant money that we got to do this stuff, yep.
Sounds like there's some difficult decisions that need to be made.
Well, but we don't get grant money to cover everything. And we don't always qualify for
No,
grants.
I understand that, but.
Right, oh, yes, I mean, that essentially, if we was to always get grants constantly, that could potentially be the case.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I don't see that.
It's a
ever.
balance. One way or the
Yeah.
other, it's a balance. I mean,
Yep.
you want to see that grant money come.
Oh,
because-
definitely, yep,
But from this committee's perspective, we're continuing to borrow money and accruing interest, and that interest is going to get so high at some point, we don't have the money to pay for anything other than the interest. I don't think any of us want to be there, so
No.
we can't keep doing what we're doing. So keep that in mind as you're requesting the same amount of funds. We can't keep requesting the same amount of funds.
but, and then what you're saying too is also keep it in mind is you guys have taken our levy dollar away in that account. Maybe not you, but county board has. So, our construction account, we have zero levied dollar.
And
Since
up till- up till,
2014 or
what, 10
15?
years ago or 15 years
Roughly.
ago?
There was 900.
levy money put in the construction account that when they started borrowing, they took levy money away from the county.
And shored up other departments or wherever it went. I wasn't here at the time, but,
I don't know the history of that.
right,
And that's back when they put the freeze on, so that's what put us in.
sure.
Previous boards, if they had to balance the budget, they took it from the highway funds to balance the budget. And pretty soon we didn't have any highway funds. So that's why nothing got done for years. And then now we can't, unless it's a capital improvement, you can't borrow for it, you can't raise your levy, the levy limits are on. So we got froze at our lowest possible point due to bad decisions by past board members, basically.
Yeah, robbing Peter to pay Paul is never a good idea.
No, a perfect example of that is Milwaukee. To balance their budget, they took the pension fund. And now the state is on, and they're put a 2% sales tax on the, put that budget back to where it's supposed to be. And,
So we're paying for Milwaukee's pension.
well, it's a sales, if you go to a game or something, you are. If you spend money in
Yep.
Milwaukee, you're helping them balance their pension fund again.
That's why you gotta pay $17 for a tap beer or something.
Yeah.
Well, it's no fun to balance, difficult decisions. I get it, Neil. You're doing, we're paying you to look at every dollar,
Yep,
right? And some of those tough decisions now fall on your lap.
yep.
So you're doing the right thing coming to us to ask, but we implore you also to make sure that you're cutting expenses and limiting expenditures whenever you possibly can.
Yep.
So,
Okay, are we ready to vote on this, to move it on to full board?
Are we voting on the 450 or are we voting on
Well,
less?
nobody made a motion to change the number, so that's what's on, that's
Okay.
what's up here right
Okay.
now, so.
are you making an amendment?
No, I'm not amending.
Okay.
So the motion is to approve at the 450.
At the 450, yes. Hearing no more discussion, no amendment, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, guys.
No, it's just to get you the county board.
ARPA funds report.
You'll have to be at the next board meeting too, by the way.
Yep,
And, I'll get the resolution around.
yep,
Well,
yep.
I'll do it right now.
Oh, okay.
It's coming.
Yep.
And I'll get the highway to sign. They had signed the original one, but we had to do the change, so
Yep.
they'll sign on county board night. So we're good.
Oh, okay,
For the highway committees one?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet, thank you.
Met you.
Yeah.
Dixon.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Aren't they both in the same resolution, the highway committee and the exec finance on the same resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Oh, we did sign it.
yeah, if you are on both committees, you can sign right away twice.
Okay.
Yep.
What other committee?
Highway
With
and,
the highway.
Oh, highway, yeah.
I was gonna talk on each mic as I go.
Okay.
If you look at the ARPA funds right now, it shows what we totally got and what we've actually spent is only that $3,700. You've allocated 3.9 million. And so the balance to allocate is the 1,787,523.58. I changed this so that you can see that we've earned interest on that money of $195,000 already too. That's just kind of off to the side, so you don't have to do any. That'll just technically, I suppose, go to the general fund. You don't have to allocate that money.
We just gave it to highway, so.
There you go.
what was the interest again? What was the interest
that?
on the
Get
ARPA?
those from that.
195.
Oh, okay.
What was the interest?
Oh, where's your sheet?
Here it is, right here. I got the sheet.
He's got it right there. Right there.
Okay.
Thanks, Dick. So, the other thing I was gonna say was that question came up because of that, I don't remember what the bill was called at the federal level, that there was a possibility that we would lose that money because they were saying that if you hadn't expended it, you didn't need it. Well, we got notification from the feds anyway that
You,
this
you
money
got it
can't-
from the feds, because I saw it in the county association report that it
There
was-
you go,
Yep.
you're right. So, we don't have to worry about that, but we do have to get it allocated, and 2024 is coming up now, in a few months.
By the end of this
By
year,
the-
we have
by
to.
the end of this year?
No, but, yeah, no, we have to have it allocated in 2024. But we have to have it spent by 2026.
So we still got a long time.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, we'll get
we
more
got a year and a
interest.
half, right?
Right.
We're getting like just about 25,000 a month on interest. It's
Right.
really,
It's good that way. The point of clarification, on the Justice Center contingency that's already been allocated, that 1.5 million,
yep.
we're spending, that contingency is almost gone, if I'm not mistaken, what we've already
Not this
spent.
one- Not this one yet, nope.
That's what I want to clarify. So there was a contingency for the build
Right.
of 1.5.
Yes, and then there was 3 million for the remodel?
Well,
And that's
There's
what they're
several
spent.
numbers that have been thrown out for what that's gonna cost us, and there,
Yep.
we should be getting numbers by September, I think.
Well, Kurt is coming to the July meeting, right?
Property they're gonna talk about.
I think what he's coming to is he's coming to say, this is what we wanna bid out.
Yes.
Then in
yes.
September or October, we'll get the money at what's it gonna actually cost us. So we really need to be sitting on this until we get that number, because we don't know what's left of the original contingency, right? Which is, it's not much left, I'm telling you now. If I remember right, it's only like a couple 100,000 or something left of that 1.5.
I thought it was more than that.
I don't remember the number. We're spending it fast. And we still have a couple, July, August, September, October, about 3 months left before it's done. And then when you move in, you're gonna find things after you move in that are like, oh, Jeremy's gotta do this, Jeremy's gotta do that, for good reason, right? And there's gonna be more money spent. So I'm suggesting is that 1.5 with the original contingency is probably gonna be gone. So all we're gonna have is this 1.5 from the ARPA funds left to spend against
I see what
whatever
you- yeah, I
remodel
see
we
what you-
do.
Uh,
Okay.
one thing too, though, I did get to see the bid that they put out for the furniture, fixtures, equipment thing. And it was around 600,000, so that 870, I gotta find out why that's higher than what the bid came back at. If there's something else that they haven't bid out in furniture, fixtures, and equipment, that'd be the other thing, but I did see the bid was like 580 or just about $600,000.
So you're saying we might be able to unallocate some money at some point?
That's what I'm thinking.
That's always a good
It's
thing
always a
if we
good
can.
thing.
And this already takes into consideration too that we had allocated for the veteran service walkers and wheelchairs 6,000, only spent $3,698. The rest of that now is back in that 1.7 million
So the 1.787, that's what we have unallocated.
unallocated.
So theoretically, if we didn't allocate any more of that, and we have this 1.5 already allocated out to the Justice Center contingency, we have $3 million if that bid came back to redo the renovation.
That's stretching it, but yes. Yes.
Truthfully, that's why we're waiting for this bid to come back, because if it comes back at $2.9 million, we've got it right here. And then we could say, hey, we want to allocate this money to that,
There you go.
we could make
Yep.
that recommendation. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're planning here a little bit and saying, it could come back be 4 million. Well, now we're in the hole. We're going to have to borrow another $1 million.
I should have actually, because just on Friday, we got another bill, from Samuels for the whole project and that. And the only thing that I looked at was kind of interesting anyway. I think this bill was a little over $1 million too, but it just says the amount left to bill was only $6 million, so we're.
They're going to figure out how to bill for that.
Oh, I
Trust
know,
me.
I know.
Whenever you set up a contingency, they're going to figure out how to spend every bit of that.
There you go, there you go.
So, all right.
We got to go on a tour on Friday of the building, and boy, it's really progressed since the last time I was
Better be.
on it.
I want to know when that.
Pick out your favorite cell.
We
don't
didn't get
think
to
you
go
wanna
in
get-
that section. did we? Oh, yeah, the one padded cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, the padded cell. Yeah,
That
that's
one
where
looks
I'm going.
Are the pads in yet?
No.
No.
That's the one I want, so I don't get hurt anymore.
Pads are going to be pink, just so you know.
Well, it depends on which category you're in,
What do we have, 22 categories, I think?
How many? It's unbelievable,
There's actually,
It wasn't just male, female, it was
oh, yeah,
mental and,
Yeah, there's a bunch.
yeah,
I thought there was like
20 different
20-something.
categories.
Or the state says there's 20, I don't know what it is. But, there's a lot. I'm gonna pick out the right one when I go in, I know that, so I get the best service.
Look it up. We got it covered, I think, or
I
is there
think
anything
that's
else?
just- it's a good thing that you got that in the back of your mind anyway.
Well, and that's what I think the purpose of this agenda item is, just to talk a general discussion about where we're at, what do we need to be thinking about, so that we have some sort of an idea going into how we're going to spend the rest of this. And the good thing is we do have 18 months more before we have to designate it, so we could potentially get to the end of the remodel before we really know all of the different costs that we could allocate this money to.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, well, FEMA funds.
Haven't heard a thing since our discussions with integrity and all that, and we still can expect to get our admin money back. And I'm hoping all of the admin money back, which was about $90,000.
They better, or we're definitely lied to.
Well,
So, okay. Nothing else. Time and date for the next meeting.
August 7th.
the 7th,
August
huh?
7th,
8:30?
8:30 works.
8:30.
Good, I think.
Does that work for you, Bridget?
Yes, that is fine, thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 10:10.